Picture this: 18,000 screaming fans packed into a concert hall, electricity filling the air as the king of rock and roll commands the stage. Suddenly, Elvis Presley stops mid-song, his voice trailing off as he spots something that breaks his heart. In the crowd sits a frail 7-year-old boy, fighting for his life, clutching a handmade sign that simply reads, "Elvis, I'm dying. Please sing for me." What happened next became one of the most beautiful moments in entertainment history, proving that sometimes the greatest performances aren't about the music at all. They're about the human heart. Tommy Morrison wasn't like other 7-year-olds. While his classmates played on playgrounds and worried about homework, Tommy spent his days in hospital beds, battling a rare form of leukemia that doctors said would claim his life before his 8th birthday. But Tommy had something that medical science couldn't measure: an unwavering belief in the healing power of music, specifically the music of Elvis Presley. His mother, Sarah Morrison, later recalled how Tommy would spend hours listening to Elvis records, his thin fingers drumming weakly against his hospital blanket in rhythm to "Can't Help Falling in Love" and "Love Me Tender." The nurses at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia noticed something remarkable on days when Elvis music filled Tommy's room. His vital signs improved, his appetite returned, and that spark of childhood joy flickered back in his tired eyes. Sarah learned that Elvis was scheduled to perform the Spectrum Arena in Philadelphia. She knew she had to make it happen. Against doctors' orders, and with Tommy barely strong enough to sit up, she wheeled him out of the hospital for what she feared might be his last adventure. "If my boy is going to leave this world," she whispered to herself, "he's going to hear his hero sing first." The journey to the arena was treacherous. Tommy's oxygen tank clanked rhythmically with each bump in the road, and Sarah had to stop 3 times to check his pulse. But when they arrived at the Spectrum, and Tommy saw the massive crowds, the bright lights, and heard the distant sound of music, his face lit up with a smile that seemed to illuminate the entire parking lot. Inside the arena, the atmosphere was electric. Elvis took the stage in his iconic white jumpsuit, adorned with rhinestones that caught the spotlight like stars. The crowd erupted as he launched into burning love, his powerful voice filling every corner of the massive venue. Sarah had managed to secure seats close to the stage, hoping against hope that somehow Elvis might notice her son. Tommy, despite his weakness, had insisted on making a sign. With shaking hands and his mother's help, he had carefully written in crayon, "Elvis, I'm dying. Please sing for me. Love, Tommy, age 7." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of a child's deepest wish. As Elvis performed song after song, Tommy held that sign high above his head with every ounce of strength his small body could muster. For the first hour of the show, the sign seemed lost in a sea of screaming fans. But during a quiet moment between songs, as Elvis paused to drink water and scan the audience, his eyes fell upon that small, handwritten message. The king of rock and roll, a man who had performed for millions and was accustomed to every kind of fan display, suddenly went completely still. Later, members of Elvis's band would describe that moment as transformative. They watched as their larger-than-life performer became something even greater, a human being moved by pure compassion. Elvis squinted against the stage lights, reading the sign again and again, before his gaze dropped to the frail boy holding it. In that instant, Tommy Morrison became the most important person in that arena of 18,000. What happened next defied every convention of live performance. Elvis stopped singing mid-verse of It's Now or Never, his voice simply fading away as he stood transfixed by the sight of Tommy. The backup singers continued for a few notes before. They too fell silent, sensing that something profound was occurring. The massive crowd, initially confused by the sudden silence, began to follow Elvis's gaze toward the small boy in the third row. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elvis said, his voice unusually soft. "There's someone here tonight who needs our love more than our applause." He gestured toward Tommy, whose mother had now lifted him slightly so the entire arena could see the brave little boy. "This is Tommy, and he's 7 years old, and he's fighting the biggest fight of his life." The arena fell completely silent. 18,000 people, holding their collective breath as Elvis stepped down from the stage, something that was strictly against his security protocols. His bodyguards moved to stop him, but Elvis waved them away with gentle determination. He walked straight to where Tommy sat, knelt down beside the wheelchair, and took the boy's tiny hand in his own. "What's your favorite song, Tommy?" Elvis asked, his voice now amplified by the arena's sound system. Tommy, barely able to speak above a whisper, managed to say, "Love Me Tender." Without missing a beat, Elvis began to sing not the polished performance version, but something intimate and personal, meant for an audience of one. As his voice filled the arena with that beloved melody, something magical happened. 18,000 strangers began to cry together, united in witnessing an act of pure human kindness. The concert that night lasted 3 hours longer than scheduled, but nobody complained. After singing "Love Me Tender" to Tommy, Elvis invited the boy and his mother backstage, where they spent the remainder of the evening together. Elvis gave Tommy his personal scarf, signed every piece of memorabilia the family had brought, and most importantly, treated the dying boy not as a tragic figure, but as a friend. Word of Elvis's gesture spread like wildfire. Within days, the story had reached national news outlets, and letters began pouring in from around the world. Other performers started following Elvis's example, taking time during their shows to acknowledge fans facing difficult circumstances. The Tommy moment, as it became known in entertainment circles, established a new standard for how celebrities could use their platform to spread compassion. But the most remarkable part of the story was yet to come. Tommy Morrison, the boy doctors said would never see his 8th birthday, began showing signs of improvement within weeks of meeting Elvis. His oncologist, Dr. Patricia Williams, later wrote in medical journals about the inexplicable recovery. That coincided with Tommy's emotional experience at the concert. While she couldn't prove a medical connection, she noted that Tommy's will to live seemed dramatically strengthened. After that night, Tommy lived for 3 more years, far exceeding all medical predictions. During that time, he became a symbol of hope for other sick children, often visiting hospitals with his Elvis scarf to share his story. When he finally passed away at age 10, his funeral was attended by hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by his brief but powerful journey. Elvis, deeply moved by Tommy's fight, established a foundation in the boy's name that continues to grant wishes for terminally ill children today. The night Elvis stopped his show for a dying 7-year-old boy proved something the world desperately needed to remember. Fame without compassion is hollow, but fame used to lift others becomes immortal. Tommy Morrison lived only 10 years, but his impact and Elvis's response to his simple request continues to inspire acts of kindness around the world. Ready to make a difference in a child's life? Visit the Tommy Morrison Foundation today and help grant a wish for a child fighting their own battle. Because sometimes all it takes is one moment of compassion to change everything.